Yes and yes and yes.
Either a little bit, a lot, somehow.
Well, I want to remove the ventilation noise, but I don't want to remove the frying pan, and that's the intelligence behind this.
It's hard to find a name that hasn't been purchased or bought by now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ray Thompson, and Craig Wilson, my co-host, is here. And welcome back to Making the Media. Craig, who do we have on tap for today?
Yeah, thanks, Ray. So we've focused a lot this season, as you know, on media composer and editing workflows. But of course, a key component of post-production is audio. And increasingly, a lot of audio work's being done in Media Composer directly. So, what are some of the ways that we can make that process easier? Well, this is where Acclaim Audio come in with their Media Composer extension, which is called ESION. And on the show this time around, we've got their co-founders, Troy Stone, who's their CTO, and Wayne Lappi, who is their CEO.
Excellent. All right, well, let's dig in. And we're going to begin with Wayne, who's going to talk a little bit about the company, a little bit about the product, and the problem they're trying to solve in the market.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, Troy came to me. He has as we were talking, he has a deep audio mixing background, award-winning and all that. And he came to me with this idea, and we batted it around, did market research, all that kind of stuff. Didn't have any product names yet, but it was the genesis for forming Acclaim, which turned into a set of products under the ESION banner. And that has been an absolute wondrous process of going through the discovery, choosing to utilize AI, doing the research, and not settling on just one AI to do everything, because it just doesn't solve the problems that way. And it's just been a lot of fun creating Acclaim Audio, creating the products, getting them out there, meeting with Raymond from Avid, okay, who's in charge of the partnership programs there, which led us to the extension. And I still find myself saying panel now and then because that was the original name, but the extensions. That's really much from the company standpoint. We have Troy and I as the founders. I have a deep architecture background with working with large companies, super large projects, that kind of stuff. So this has been a really fun transition, getting into the startup mode and not having to take 3 weeks to make a decision. We take 3 minutes and make a decision. And that's been really nice. And Troy, I'll let you spend a few moments talking about your background.
Sure. So I think one of the things before I get into that is that differentiates Acclaim, that gives us a unique sort of take on it is that experience. With Wayne's deep, background as an architect, and then with my background, I've got a big background in post audio mixing. I worked at the Golf Channel for NBC, the WWE, many different networks, and working very closely with the video editors on Media Composer as well throughout my career.
So Troy, thanks for that kind of explanation, and Wayne as well. It sounds like it's a very complementary, skill set that you both have. Before we dive into the detail, on the products, Wayne, just at a high level, tell us about the products and tell us a little bit about, some of the challenges that perhaps you're trying to solve with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as Troy said, with one of the biggest problems every single audio mixer, every video editor, they always have to deal with is leveling that dialogue. So we focused in on that area. And yeah, is it easy to level it? Yeah, you can put some basic plugins in place and do leveling. The trouble is it'll end up sounding like a commercial in your face. And it's not really still sounding natural. You lose the emotion. So Troy, worked very, very hard with us in is how do we detect when you're supposed to raise the levels, when are you supposed to raise them, but leave it still softer because the person naturally tailed off at the end a little bit. So going through that and being able to understand to retain human emotion during the speech, which is a huge part of it, And it's what an audio gets paid big bucks, a mixer does to fix all this stuff. So we now built that product to do that. And that's, as Troy was saying, that iterative process we go through during this development and testing process. So we did get the leveler working. We're extremely happy with it. The large customers using it, it's surprising how many times when they're using it, not a single audio note comes back that we need something fixed. It's just accepted, okay, which is very unusual actually in the industry when they're doing this. Then we moved on to a noise reduction, and we call it Restore. And it's not your industry standard noise reduction of how they do it. We have our own proprietary algorithms that is self-adjusting as it goes. It's constant looking for different noise. Is it changing? Now the example Troy always uses is I'm on a cooking show and I have the frying pan sizzling in the background. Well, I want to remove the ventilation noise, but I don't want to remove the frying pan. And that's the intelligence behind this to make it work. And it's really astounding to see what it can really do and how it retains the quality of the speech. You don't end up a lot of times with what people call artifacting. And then we have an auto editing product for dialogue. And a lot of products have this, and we've trying to take it to the next level, building in intelligence, where it's looking, the standard removes the flubbed words, the ums, the ahs, and that kind of stuff. Then we took it a step further and we're looking for duplicate words. So many times when you're speaking, it's I think I want to do something. Find the duplicates, remove them. Took it a step further. Let's remove duplicate phrases, triplicate phrases, all this. I think I want to do this. And it finds those and retains just one of those, and you get a natural speech flowing. And that's where Troy's audio engineering background came in, was invaluable to know when we're cutting things out. How do you merge them back together smoothly so you can't tell it's been a cut? That kind of thing. So, those are the three basic products. Then we put them all together into a studio product, which just, you buy that, you get all of them. And then after meeting with Ray, when he reached out to us, like, hey, we're coming out with this extension capability in Media Composer. We're like, on the studio one's the natural one to build out for that, to give the video editors all these capabilities integrated seamlessly within Media Composer, which saves them a ton of times. And Troy can talk through workflows and all that and what it brings them. But that's the genesis and the basics of what we're doing from a product standpoint.
Yeah, so Troy, I think Wayne mentioned earlier on ESION. So talk a
Yes.
little bit about that and how it's been used in the industry, and perhaps some of the content it's been used on.
So the name itself, ESION, it's funny. It's hard to find a name that hasn't been purchased or bought by now. Wayne came up with this name, and it's noise, the word noise backwards, reversed. But I liked the way it flowed, and it was catchy, so we went with that name. But so let's talk about that. So the content, I think the content that we see that it's being used the most successfully on is not your major movie, right? Because there on a major film, you're doing ADR overdubbing for so much of the dialogue. Where we see this really having great traction is in content like news, sports, documentaries, things where there's not ADR happening very much, if ever. Um, and those types of content, for example, Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime, for the past couple of years, all of the pregame shows have went through ESION, and the dialogue has been processed through it, greatly helping get that turnaround much quicker. And there's two aspects of what ESION does with the leveling. So the first thing it does is it goes through and basically automates, for example, what we do in Media Composer when we add keyframe volume automation or clip gain. Those are two ways that the editors go through they have all their clips, strung out on a timeline from various takes and different, locations, different people, and they're going to either draw in with keyframes the volume automation, or they're going to use a clip gain. Once they do that, there's still another layer that has to be achieved, and this one's very difficult to do in really Media Composer or Pro Tools. Is we have to deliver to a certain loudness requirement, and they vary across the world. The EBU has its own set of standards. The United States and Canada have theirs, South America. And then they can vary even within streaming platforms. Netflix has a little bit different than, so those are, the ESION solves all of that. So ESION goes through, looks at looks at your whole timeline and automates with AI all of that manual clip gain adjustment and volume automation. And then once that is at a level that is sufficient, then the user is able to say, well, where do I want to deliver this to? Do I want to deliver this to Netflix or EBU standard? There's a whole set of preset deliverables in there that with the button push, voila, they get that too. So I wanted a solution that basically gives a video editor or a post audio mixer everything they need. And I think the other thing that's exciting about the AI is that we're now at a point with AI where it's not just theory; it's really coming into play. We're seeing it being used practically, and it's such an opportunity for companies either to leapfrog or get left behind. And when I was talking to Wayne, I said, I want to approach Avid. They're the perfect company for this because they are embracing AI so much right now. And when we talked to Raymond, and told him about this AI solution and perhaps making an extension, he was totally behind it. He's been incredible, supportive, giving us, everything we could need. And we're just extremely excited now to be able to take the desktop app and have something that integrates directly into Media Composer.
Yeah, so Troy, tell us a little bit about that, because as you mentioned, there's a desktop app. One of the things we're seeing now with more people building the extensions in Media Composer, it's actually about making it feel a natural part of the workflow. Is that really what you're trying to achieve here? It's part of Media Composer, it's part of the workflow, as opposed to it being something separate that you have to then almost step away from what you're doing to actually focus on.
So much. Yes, 100%. So with the way that we've created the extension, literally every you do not need to leave Media Composer ever. The GUI comes up. It looks very similar to the desktop app with some minor variations. But no, so you're able to open the ESION as the extension. You can control it 100% completely right within the Media Composer environment, never having to leave. So yeah, I think that makes it much more practical and simple to use. The other thing that I love is it's got functionality that we can't do with the desktop app. For example, right now when I use it with Pro Tools, because with Pro Tools it's still a desktop app. So I have to go into, when I'm working in Pro Tools or mixing or anyone, they're taking their dialogue, they're bouncing that out to a stem, then they're sending that, then I have to open the desktop app, import the stem into the desktop app, process it, and then once it's done, re-import it back into the timeline and manually move it to the right location where snap it to the right location where it was. With Media Composer, none of that happens. It's all that's eliminated. So basically, Media Composer, I highlight on a track or multiple tracks, because ESION is capable of doing up to 24 channels of audio as well. But I highlight what track and how long of a duration I want to process in Media Composer with the mark in and mark out points. Once I do that, I go to the GUI, I hit process basically. It then processes that, and when it's done, puts it right back into a ESION bin that is in Media Composer, and then all I have to do is hit the quick key to replace it onto the track. So yeah, all that is so much more of it's such a better workflow than with the desktop app.
And I guess that one of the things that that's doing, efficiency is something that comes up all the time when we speak to people on the podcast these days. I think it's a constant, regardless of where you're working in news or in post production or sports. Everyone's looking for efficient workflows. Is that one of the key benefits that you see this actually delivering? Because to an extent, doing things like loudness measurement or doing things like adjusting audio and things like that, it's not a hugely creative task. And this is something that's actually enabling people focus on the creativity and allow the automation to actually do the challenging part.
100%. I think with AI too, that's exactly what we want. We want to pick tasks or problems that are fairly mundane, and that's a perfect thing for a computer to do. Uh, so yeah, by doing this, if you think about it, every single clip that's in a person's timeline or in an editor's timeline has to get adjusted. It's, like some either a little bit, a lot, or somehow. So that's a lot. I mean, if you look at a 30-minute show, you could have hundreds of clips, all over the place. So yeah, this is absolutely helping companies to be so much more efficient, to get to and to produce really sound quality of the dialogue that is so much higher than a lot of the than you could even do manually. For example, I can write all this in manually right now, and that's great. The one problem though is that then to get the loudness part of it done, I have to use dynamic processors. I have to have some limiting. I have to have and the issue with a lot of the dynamic processors that are out, and so I told Wayne is that these dynamic processors, they come mostly from music. That's where they originated from, the music world. So they've been programmed more for to react to like a singer. You know, 99% of these plugins are all for the music community. So we made sure that when we made our dynamics chain, that part of the AI, that we made it for speech specifically. And I think it really gives it that great sound. So efficiency is 100% what ESION delivers, and it improves the sound, which you can't beat.
I'll add on to that just for a second here is that, when you're a video editor, what does a video editor like to do? They like to do the creative video editing process. They don't like to mess with audio. So we always try to tell them, you focus on the video, let ESION handle the audio for you. Take that task away, and you're going to know it's done right.
Yeah, so why, Wayne, was it important for you to have integrations with Avid? And maybe I think you alluded to earlier on of the process of speaking to Ray and working things through, but maybe just talk a little bit about the
Yeah,
process of doing the integration and really why it was important for you to have integration with Avid.
I think it's a great question. The why it's important to have that integration is to be when you're integrated into the video editor's platform, in this case, Media Composer, it goes back to efficiency. You're making things easy to use. If they're easy to use, they will use it. If things that do a great job, but they're incredibly complicated, I have to adjust 50 buttons and I have to do 14 trials to get a result, it's not going to be used. So that was our entire mantra when we were making this whole thing is we want to utilize AI. We want to make it single button push, take away all those complex decisions. It becomes a tool. You don't know how the under your hood your car works all the time, but you do know if I turn the key, I put it in gear, it'll go. This is the same kind of thing. It's meant to take away all of the mystery and just make it work, deliver a consistent sound all the time. So having that now integrated inside of the Media Composer platform just takes all that away, makes it easy for the video editor. Therefore, they're going to use it. Okay. And it's robust. It's not going to fail, all that kind of stuff. Working now with Ray when, we met him at NAB, and we were talking through this and how to do it. And he was telling us, this is a whole new concept that Avid has, and it was really exciting. Okay. Avid's getting involved in embracing AI. We've embraced AI. You bring those two together now, you're really creating some magic solutions. And the way that Avid built the extensions behind the scenes, the SDK and everything, ended up being such a simple process. And we were very fortunate when we architected ESION. It was almost configuration changes to say run as a desktop, run as a local server. Then all we had to do was build the GUI for the extension and connect it, make API calls. So that process was incredibly fast. And then because it was using known technologies, it ended up being very robust and very easy to accomplish. So we're excited as can be to get this product out there and in the hands of these editors using it.
Yeah, I want to pick up on something that you said there, Wayne. And this isn't a question that it's just a question just popped into my head, and
Yeah.
maybe Wayne or Troy, you can answer it for us. So if someone wants to come out and they hear the podcast and they think, great, I'm going to go down the route and I want to get ESION. Is it something that's installed locally? Is it cloud hosted? Is it running on a server? Maybe talk a little bit about what the architecture behind it is, because I think that'd be useful information to share.
It's a great question. The industry, the media industry specifically, is still wrestling with when do we allow cloud to be used? When do we require things to be local? When we first built it, we decided to go cloud. Really, why? Why do companies build things in the cloud? Because it makes it easier for them to maintain. Okay. But what we realized is our customers were going, we really want to run this stuff locally. We're in a high pressure environment. I can't take the time to upload to the cloud, process, download it, check it, re-upload, and go through that cycle. They need things local. And the other reason they wanted it local that we hear over and over and over is security. We don't want our assets to get out in the wild. That's the kiss of death for a lot of these networks. So we made that switch, made it local to be desktop, and now within Media Composer. And as the industry matures and more things go up on the cloud, we'll then go back and readdress that issue, but not until then. Let the industry and our customers drive our direction.
So Wayne, really exciting. Great to have you involved with Media Composer as well. What's your perspective on the media business just now? What kind of opportunities do you see? Because it's certainly something that's never static. It's always changing.
Isn't it though? I think the media business is, I think, hitting an inflection point, and it's all driven by AI right now. They're still wrestling, like I said earlier, with what can I put in the cloud, and now they're getting hit with AI, which they're dealing with from a legal perspective. And, what was it trained on? What voices can I use that? Is it legal to use it if I do that? That's going to all resolve itself fairly quickly here. I think what we're going to find is that those companies that embrace AI and bring it into their workflows, they're going to be the ones succeeding. Those that are rejecting it, they're resistant to change. As it's typical, it's just evolution. Those companies start to die down, die out. And so you're going to see that. And it's going to be a little bit painful at times for companies as they're going through this. Change is never fun to go through, but as an executive of a company, you start to realize, like, wow, down the road, I can be replacing these mundane tasks with AI. Sad to say, but you're going to see workplace, number of employees reduced in some cases. Those cases where you have, true creativity, that's not going away. That's going to be done by a human forever. Nothing's going to replace that creativity the way it is. So we're excited, and we want to position ourselves, which is what we're trying to do, is looking down the road 3 years or 5 years. Where's the media industry going to be? And we always want to try to be just ahead of that curve. Okay, I don't want to be on the bleeding edge so much that you get cut. Don't want that, but I also don't want us to be so far behind it that we're always playing catch up. So far, I think we're doing a very good job of finding that sweet spot. And it's nice to see, Avid, which is embracing AI. throughout much of its product line. That's really nice to see. We're so happy to work with Avid on that and collaborate on these products. It's really nice. So we're excited. Going back to what Troy was saying earlier about the companies using it and all that, we always like to say as one of our taglines, you have probably already heard ESION on TV. You just never realized ESION was there. It's used in so many shows. And as with always with human nature, when the audio is perfect, you don't remember those. What you do remember is when somebody did a really bad job at audio. So we want to make sure that you never have that experience with ESION. It's always producing. It's got a very unique sound, by the way. We haven't touched upon that too much. Super unique sound that, not in a bad way, an extremely good way. So we're excited. I keep saying that, and it's true. We are. We just want to keep this process going.
Yeah, and so what are your future plans? Is it more products? Is it refinement of what you have?
Yes, and yes,
just
and
now?
yes.
What do you see the next 6 to 12 months?
We're going to be enhancing the products we have, extending their capabilities, adding features to those. And then we will be building also new products, as the market drives it. So we're excited about all that and looking. We're always out there doing that market research about what's needed. So, when we did ESION, it was one of the things Troy said. What is needed by an audio engineer, audio mixer, video editor? What are they doing every single day? You're not going to do video without dialogue unless it's 1930s Charlie Chaplin, But these days, it's all got dialogue. So built on our strengths, and you build that, and everybody has to be using it because they're touching dialogue constantly.
All right, I want to thank both Wayne and Troy. What a great session. We appreciate their time. If you want to find out more, please scan the QR code that is in the up on the screen right now. Or if you're listening to the podcast, check out the show notes for links and information and everything you need.
Yeah, it's really great to see the continuing growth of Media Composer extensions. Ray, you've been heavily involved in that. So you can see a full list of all of the various extensions which are now available, and there are a lot, by just scanning the QR code that you can see now. That whole framework really is powering ahead. And as Ray said, if you're listening to the podcast, just check out the show notes and you'll get the information there. Well, that's all for this time on Making the Media. Thanks, of course, to Wayne and Troy. Thanks to our production team. Thank you, Ray, as well. But most of all, thanks to you for listening. So join us next time, and we hope to see you soon.